Sup guys? We got a little mini event today, so I'm gonna quickly go over the Datamine and give you my thoughts. If you haven't had the chance to look over the Datamine yet, I've left the link in the description. First, we've got Azur. I hope I'm saying her name right, but I honestly don't have a clue. She's a simple damage dealer with no utility at all. She has 2 separate RNG barrages on her 2 skills, both of which are pretty weak. The first one applies a burn which deals 150 flat damage per second over 5 seconds for a total of 750 damage, which is basically nothing. Her second barrage is not particularly strong either. It seems to have a total bullet count of 2, so it probably can't proc her crit buff in one activation against a single enemy, but since it can hit multiple enemies, it should still be able to proc her buff if there are multiple enemies. However, even with all her buffs, it can't save her from having 2 mediocre chance-based barrages. I don't know why we're still doing % chance barrage procs in 2024, because it's not like guaranteed barrages are rare or overpowered, while non-guaranteed barrages are just frustrating to use. If they were going to give a ship a non-guaranteed barrage, they could at least add an effect for failing to activate the barrage, which they've done before. For example, Roma has a pretty single target focused barrage, which increases her damage output by about 30%. If it fails to proc, she gains 20% extra damage on that salvo, as well as a slow, which is a very similar, but arguably weaker effect, and it allows her to still do her job of dealing decent single target damage, even if the barrage fails to proc. This is a great concept that I wish they would revisit more often when giving ships chance-based barrages. Some other effects that could be considered could be maybe like a 10% stacking firepower buff whenever the barrage fails to proc, which starts at 1% at skill level 1, so you still have to level the skill. Or if the barrage is a big AoE meant for hitting multiple enemies, the ship is probably meant to be used in campaign mobbing, and a good secondary effect could be a heal, similar to Marco Polo's, but an actually useful one like 3% for the entire fleet, as opposed to just 5% for herself. Another idea could be every time the barrage fails to activate, the next barrage is guaranteed and empowered. There are many ways to go about it. Anyway, with Azur, what you're getting is a chance that she whiffs everything and severely underperforms, and even when everything activates, she doesn't really provide anything special. And that's about it. Next up is Z47. She has very similar stats compared to Z46, so it's easy to draw a comparison between the two. You can quickly see that Z46 has a bunch of buffs for AP ammo, which Z47 doesn't, meaning that Z47 isn't necessarily locked to using the new twin 138, which is probably a good thing if we want to use the two together. In total though, her gun buffs are quite lacking compared to Z46, so her torps and barrages are going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in order to make up for the weak guns. Fortunately, her all-out assault is quite good, being comparable in damage to Z46's, but is fully aimed and ignores shields. With her low base FP, it could be worthwhile to test the single 113mm to see if it's worth sacrificing her gun damage for more barrages, but I do think that the twin 100 Kai will likely be the best option. Overall though, I don't think that she will outperform Z46 in most cases because of her lack of buffs, despite the better barrage, but perhaps if the stage you're using her in has a lot of light armor enemies, that 20% bonus damage could make up for the difference. The purple ships are quite weak, so I'm just going to skip over them. Lastly, we got a new quad mag torp, which from what I can see is just a direct upgrade over the current quad mags unless there's some hidden effect that's hiding from the stats, which I can't see. Pretty much everything stays the same, with more base damage, and apparently improved homing power, whatever that means. It has a speed stat of 2, which I'm not sure if it's intended or a typo in the datamine because regular acoustic homing torpedoes have 20 speed. Anyway, this is almost certainly going to be the best torpedo for auto in like 95% of cases now. And that's it for this update. Good luck on your rolls, and see you in the next video.